students, this is Ms. Cooper, and today we'll be looking at Africa's climate and vegetation region. Before we start, we're going to watch a quick video called Destination Africa by National Geographic Kids, which will allow you to view the culture and the landscape of Africa coming from students your age. So at this point, students will just watch the video. Our learning target. Students will be able to identify the climate and vegetation regions of Africa. Our South Carolina Social Studies standard is that we identify climate and vegetation regions of Africa and the spatial distributions and patterns of natural resources, including the impact of their location on human activities. Let me go back to that. All we're going to do today is identify the climate and vegetation regions of Africa. All right, so there are 4 vegetation regions of Africa. We have the Sahara Desert in the orange. We have the grasslands in the yellow, known as the savannas. We have the tropical forest, which is the green area. And you have the Mediterranean area in the northern part of Africa, close to the Mediterranean Sea. The first 2 major vegetation regions we're going to look at is the Mediterranean area and the Sahara Desert. The Mediterranean and Sahara are both located in the northern portion of Africa. Some information that you need to know about the Mediterranean is that it's predominantly filled with mountains known as the Atlas Mountains. The valleys are very fertile. That has fruits. The land is fertile enough to plant fruits such as citrus and vegetables. And the climate there has wet winters, hot and dry summers. Now the Sahara Desert, or the Sahara area of the vegetation regions, is 3.3 million square miles, and it covers about 25% of the continent. The Sahara Desert is so huge that you could fit the United States inside the entire desert. The climate there, you have dry tropical climate, you have hot summers and cool to cold winters. So hey, you thought just because you was in the desert it was going to be hot, but in the wintertime it does get quite chilly. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to look at the Mediterranean coast. We're going to take a Google Earth trip there. Sorry, I hit the wrong thing. You want to click on Google Earth. I already have it up because it takes Google Earth a while to load. So now that we are here in the Mediterranean area, if you look back here in the back, you will find the Atlas Mountains. Remember I told you it was a mountainous area. And if we draw in a little bit, we can see some of the valleys. See some of the fertile valleys. So what I want you guys to do is just take a minute and drop in the chat some things that you see in this picture, or this feed, or this satellite feed of the Mediterranean area. All right, so students will drop that information in the chat, and then I will review that information in the chat with the students. Next, we're going to take a tour of the Sahara Desert. The Sahara Desert. Same thing, we're going to click on this Google Earth and we're going to go visit Sahara. So during this portion of the lesson, students are going to do the same thing. We're going to tour the Sahara Desert, and I'm going to allow students to write down some things in the chat that they view in the Sahara Desert. All right, awesome job, students. Now we got a Q&A session. And what I want you to do is in your guided notes, you are provided with you have an area provided in your notes to answer these questions. You can also put them in the chat if you would like. If you had to spend one night in the Sahara, what would you bring to survive? And you have another option to draw a picture. So if you want to draw a picture, you can take a sheet of paper, draw a picture, hold it up to your screen, and you can share it with the class. Also, how does being close to the Mediterranean affect the vegetation in that area? All right, during this time, I'll allow students to answer those questions in the chat. We'll give about 2 or 3 minutes, and then we will review them. All right, the next major vegetation zone we will look at is the savanna, the grassland area. Now, we already know that the savanna is a grassland area covered with trees, and if you look here, these trees are called Serengeti trees. You're all going to also see a lot of wildlife in this area, The climate in this area, you have wet season and you have dry seasons. All right, here we're going to pause and we're going to go take a trip to Google Earth. And we're going to take a trip using Google Earth to view the savanna. So I'm going to pause here and I'm going to allow students to, I'm going to give students a tour of the savannah. And instead of this time, I'm just going to talk. They don't have to write anything in the chat. However, we're also going to watch a clip from The Lion King. And when we watch this clip, I want students to write down things in the chat that they observe. I want them to write what they observe in the chat. And the scene from Lion King would be Simba being introduced to all the animals of Pride Rock. And they will be able to see the Serengeti trees and different herds of animals such as antelope, zebras, and so forth. All right, great job, students. I hope you enjoyed that video. All right, let's answer these questions about the savannah. This time I want you to raise your hand and I'm going to call on someone to answer. What regions of Africa would you find the savannas? And why would you find many of Africa's wild animals in the savannah? So I'm going to pause here and I'm going to allow students to raise their hand and I'm going to take questions. I'm going to take the answers that way. Great job, students. The last region we're going to look at is the tropical rainforest. Tropical rainforest is going to have ample wildlife. It's going to have great vegetation, or we can use the word lush vegetation in this area. The Congo River runs through the rainforest, and the Congo River it's a great way for them to for transportation. If anybody is in the rainforest, me personally, I don't think I'll be in the rainforest. But also, if you think about centuries ago, I'm pretty sure they used this river as a way to move goods up and down to trade. And of course, in the rainforest, it is not many dry seasons. It is a rainforest, so you're going to find high rainfall there. All right, let's take a tour of the rainforest. I want you guys just drop down in the chat some of the things that you see or observe in the rainforest. So I'm going to pause and allow students to do that, and we will review with the answers in the chat. All right, Q&A time. What region of Africa would you find tropical rainforests? What type of climate or weather would cause the rainforest to have such thick, lush vegetation? Students have an opportunity to write these answers in the chat, or they can provide them in their guided notes. All right, awesome, students. We went through the 4 different regions, vegetation regions of Africa. We had the savannas, we had the desert area, we had a tropical rainforest, and the Mediterranean area. Now I want to allow you guys to play a quick review game on WordWall.net. I'm going to put the link in the chat to allow you guys to join the game. As you join, I'm going to click start. I'm going to go back and restart it, but I'm going to click start so you understand what you're doing. Up here you have a list of items, and these items are to be dragged and dropped into whatever you think in whatever vegetation region you think it may belong in. So the North African coast, what you're going to do, you see this, and you're going to drop it into whichever area you think it belongs in. I think it goes to the Mediterranean, so that's where I'm going to place it. All right, here I'm going to pause, and what the students will do, they will play the game. I will project the game on the screen so the students are able to see who's in the lead and who's not in the lead as they play the game, such as the same thing you would do with Kahoot or quizzes. All right, awesome, students. Congratulations to our first, second, and third winners. All right, so now you are able to identify the vegetation and climate zones. That was our learning target. I'm giving you in your notes. In your interactive notes, you are provided with a blank map, which allows you to drag and drop. In that blank map, you are allowed to drag and drop the areas of the climate zone. The map is blank. You have the 4 options on the sides: desert, grassland, tropical forest, and Mediterranean, and you're going to drop them in the corresponding area. Also, you guys have 2 questions that you need to answer that's part of that interactive map. What types of climate and vegetations are found in Africa? And how do you think climate and vegetation affect how Africans make a living? All right, students, I hope you enjoyed your lesson. I will see you on tomorrow. All right, so how to ensure students will receive differentiated opportunities for independent practice and in order to gather individualized student data within a lesson and provide academic feedback in that moment. All right, so I'm looking at my data set, and I realize I have advanced students, proficient students, and not proficient students, which is ideally what our classrooms are made up of: in person, virtual. It doesn't matter. So first thing I would do is I provide students with a hand copy of the notes. Not well, we're in a virtual setting, so students would have a copy of the notes in their learning management system. Also, they would have guided notes as well, and in these guided notes they will be able to fill in the blanks of the important information. Now this will help students that are advanced, proficient, and students who are not proficient, because can go back and look at the notes as needed. In order to gather individualized student data in the lesson and give feedback in that moment, in my lesson I had a lot of Q&A. I had a lot of recall, asking students questions of what I just went over. Okay, so we learned about the Savannah. So now I have these two questions. Tell me about the Savannahs. What do Savannahs look like? What is life like in the Savannahs? Not those questions per se, but students will have an opportunity to answer those questions in real time by providing them in the chat, or they have the opportunity to raise their hand. In some settings, I might even provide Kahoot questions based off on the slides that were provided before. So that's a good way to have feedback for students in that moment. Students also, as I was talking about Kahoot, students also in that particular lesson, they were able to play WordWallNet, which is a live game. So I can watch students answer their questions and see what students are ahead, what students are behind. It also allowed me to see, okay, well, a majority of students understood the Sahara, but some of the students did not understand the tropical rainforest. So that allows me to see where they're at and provide academic feedback in that moment. I can go back and say, okay, well, hey, I noticed in the game that we struggle with the tropical rainforest. So let's talk a little bit more about the tropical rainforest. So those are some ways that I could provide academic feedback in that moment.